Rock Solid Radio wants to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions. Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. They offer a wide selection of high-quality plants, landscaping materials, and home decor. They do amazing high-quality work and can help you transform your indoor and outdoor living spaces into something beautiful. So stop by Casey's Outdoor Solutions today and let them know you appreciate their support for Rock Solid Radio. Visit Casey's today at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. Hey, this is Merrill Hutchinson, being joined by my lovely wife, Linda. Hey, Linda, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys? Hey, everybody.
I cannot wait to get started today.
What? Why?
Because I'm just going to shut up and let you do all the talking.
Wait a second. What's that about? Why would you do that?
Because words matter, and I really don't want to be held accountable for what I might say today.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about.
This was on you.
What? What do you mean?
You got to carry the show today. I'm not getting myself in trouble.
That's a great way to avoid responsibility, and that's what we're going to be talking about today, about our words and how they matter.
They do matter. They do matter, and we having a little bit of fun, but also looking at kind of the situation that we find ourselves in our families, in our marriages, in our country right now. We're starting to see that people don't really believe that their words matter, or at least they don't understand the magnitude of a word that matters. And so as we often talk, Linda and I do not want to ever get into political discussion on it. We don't want this show to be about that. However, how the family goes the country. And when the family breaks down, the country will break down. And so much of what we try to talk about here at Rock Solid Radio is, well, what do we need to do within the home?
Right.
Because we've got to get the home, the family, the marriage healthy. And, you know, in our work at Rock Solid Families, where we do our coaching and our work, we find that people don't really understand the magnitude of what they're communicating. They don't understand the hurt they deliver. They don't understand the miscommunications. Linda and I have problems with this, right? Even in preparing for shows.
Today.
Sometimes. and so trying to recognize when you do communicate something wrongly or hurtful or that is going to take you in a negative direction, if you don't recognize it, it's going to cause destruction.
Yeah. And so we're not saying we're perfect at this, but we are saying that we have seen in our work how important words are and how they have an effect on our families and our community and our nation. And so we're going to be talking about that today, just having a conversation. So we hope you'll join in, and we would love to have you walk along with us. But first, hon, we've got to thank some sponsors.
Let's thank a few sponsors. We want to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions for coming alongside of Casey's has been just a strong community guy, and it's really great to see him jumping in and supporting our efforts here, and so we just want to thank him.
Yeah, and we also want to thank Maxwell Construction, who has been with us since the very beginning. So both of these sponsors help us to do what we're doing, and so, you know, back at Rock Solid Families, we're running our fitness classes Monday through Saturday, 6 days a week, and we would love for you to join us. I do a Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning class at 8 a.m., It's our early birds. Right. And then those come and do Tuesday nights, Thursday nights with you.
Tuesday, Thursday evenings, we do a 7 p.m. class. And so, you know, one of the things I will say that I see a little bit different this year, in the years that we've done our fitness stuff, which has been quite a few years now, you always see an uptick after January 1st. And it was very slight this year, and I think it's
because
still the COVID situation. And what we would like to say is we take the necessary precautions to wipe all of our equipment down before and after use and all that kind of thing. So if you want to get back in shape or get in shape for the first time, come on out and see us, and let's get it moving.
Although your Strong Dads are running stronger than ever on Saturday mornings from 8 to 9:30. Tell them a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Strong Dads is, my last group, the last weekend was just amazing. We ended up having like 9 or 10 guys that showed up, and it was just really cool. They're not all in the best of shape, I will say.
That's why they're coming to you.
And so they come in and we do a workout, getting some physical activity, which, by the way, we don't let that be the thing that prevents anybody to walk in the door. I don't care what level of shape you come in. Obviously, have you sign a waiver, because if you
Yeah.
drop over dead, it's on you.
Oh, honey, we do have an AED. We do have a
We do have an
defibrillator in our
AED,
house,
yeah.
which we
Yeah.
in our office. So.
But come on in, because we get the workout in, but the workout is really, in my mind, it's secondary to the discussion that happens afterward about the challenge. We have conversations like this about what we're going to talk about today. Words matter.
Yeah.
How we're talking to our wife and our kids, holding each other accountable. So much of what we hear is an echo chamber of what we want to hear. When I look at Facebook or I look at other social medias, I say something and people just jump on board and they either bash you or they do nothing but encourage you. And sometimes you need to be not encouraged, but they agree with. And sometimes you need to be challenged.
Yeah. So we also are seeing clients in our office. A lot of people, our old clients, have called and said, hey, are you seeing people in person? We are. And we're taking precautions of social distancing and disinfecting and things like that. But we also do Zoom calls. So we do that 6 days a week in our home, not in our home, in our office. And so we would love for you, if you have a need, if this is something that resonates with you or something we've done or before in the past, give us a call. We'd love to sit down and meet with you.
Yeah. And also, as we talk about now transferring a lot of our work into a video format, we need your help. We're reaching out there. We're asking for help. Get out there and listen, watch, spread. So
share,
subscribe, do what we can to get our messages out.
Yeah.
Again, this is not a paid for gig, so please understand that. This is about having conversation that hopefully is thought-provoking but positive in a way that makes a difference.
Yeah, and so just to be clear, if you're watching this as a video podcast, you're watching through YouTube, we have 3 channels on YouTube. We have Rock Solid Radio, which is where this show lies. We also have Strong Dads, which is the other podcast you do, video and audio portion. And then we also have a Rock Solid Families channel. So subscribe to all 3. That way you get the material and content when it's new and it comes up directly sent to you. And that way you know or alerted at least when it's coming.
Right. And you can access all that on our website at rocksolidfamilies.org.
Whew,
there you go.
That's a lot.
Ta-da! Let's move on.
Let's talk about communication, hon, because it comes in a lot of forms and it's not always just by words. A lot of times it can be done non-verbally.
Right. In fact, I'd say, especially in the world that we're living in today, more often than not, it is done non-verbally. The texting and social media world has really jumped in.
Well, those are verbs. I mean, that's words, but
words. But I mean, I'm sorry, not through body language, and that's where my brain is shifting to right now. The idea that I use just the word and strip down everything else comes with a very large risk, and the risk is miscommunication, and those are the things that we want to really be aware of. So understanding all the different forms, whether it be the word, but how about eye contact? How about body language? How about tone? All of those things really come into play. And we've gotten to the point now where part of our work when we work with couples is, especially if it's kind of been a turbulent way, we don't let them text to each other. Not that we're the text police, but we say, please stop texting.
It doesn't count in the time we want them to spend together, put it that way. They may text, but we want them to do face-to-face, eye-to-eye, not nose to nose. I was going to say no to nose.
Whoa, that was a show that we did a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly. But so we want that to be what they do.
You can text, hey, I'll be there at 5, but that's keeping it extremely factual and basic. But when we have to have discussion, we're going to try to get as many of the forms of communication into the picture as we can. Yeah. We've even talked how through COVID, we've learned that we do not like coaching and counseling people with a mask on. It covers up 75% of the communication that's coming out of their face.
Yeah.
And so not that you can't fish through some of that, but it certainly doesn't make our work easier.
Yeah, and the reason why we feel like face-to-face is so important is that this rapid change of texting and tweeting and Facebook and all of those things, we've seen a rapid decline of effective communication. And that's what we're really talking about today. You know, more than ever, we're using words irresponsibly, kind of almost anonymously. I mean, did you know, hun, that there is a app, there's several apps, but that you can do things text anonymously, like no one will even know who it is. Wow, you can do a lot of destructive things when you have no repercussions or no accountability for your words.
Yeah. And it's dangerous. You know, on the radio, they've always talked about there's a 7-second delay. So from the time it comes from the broadcaster's mouth in the studio, there's a 7-second delay before it's going to be transmitted to my ear. And that is their buffer, right? That's their little, what do you call it? The wall, you know, the safeguard wall that says, oh, we got to stop that.
Ouch.
When we are doing some of the communication that we're doing right now, we lose that safeguard. And it's hard to take it back. Once it comes out, the damage is done.
When you push send, you better be very careful that what you just sent is really what you meant.
Yeah,
Ooh, I like that. What you sent is what you meant.
Sent you.
I like that.
Jot it down.
And you don't have to look that person in the eye. So it's real easy to say things or do things that you really don't mean or that you're later going to regret when you don't have to look them in the eye and say it face to face.
Yeah. So we want to talk today about, like I said earlier, about our families. You know, we look so often at what's going on out in the world that's wrong. And normally you have very little control over what's going on out in the world. And what we find in our work is, man, you know, let's just start at home.
Right.
And
What you do have control
how
over.
are you talking to your spouse? How are you talking to your kids? We've talked many times about sarcasm. You know, I mean, there's nobody that likes to have and use sarcasm more than we do in our home. But we have learned over the years that it's gotten us in trouble.
Yeah, time and place.
Yeah, so we've had to really learn, that didn't land as well as I wanted it to land.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about, you know, where we get our guide as far as what we do with our words. You know, in James chapter 3, in the Bible, it says, James calls the tongue, a flame of fire.
Yeah.
And it has the ability with just a little spark to literally burn a whole forest down. And we've got to realize that we got to learn to tame the tongue, to keep the fire in the fireplace, because yes, it can do amazing things. It can keep you warm. It can bring light. But when we get that fire out of the fireplace, it can burn down a house. It can destroy a marriage. It can ruin a reputation. And you guys have seen that. We've seen that. We've seen it in our own family. We've seen that in our country. We've seen that in our community. And so we've got to really be careful of what we do with this flame of fire.
Right. And I also want to say something here very clearly. All of these technologies of social media, texting, phones, they are not necessarily the problem.
They're not the evil, right?
No, the evil is our use of them. And
Yes.
What we would love to do is, the company needs to go and shut down phones or regulate how phones used, or the government needs to come in and shut this down and regulate it. And again, there's always a place for that discussion. But the bottom line is personal responsibility.
Ooh, can you say that again? Because I don't think we really
you
even
need to be more responsible with your words is what I'm saying.
Well, I don't even think we really even talk about personal responsibility much anymore.
No, like I want to blame everything on
someone
the
else.
world that's happening around me, and I have a play in that world. And I also have a responsibility with it. And especially when we're talking about in our home, I have a responsibility for what comes out of me and how I handle things. And so, you know, no, I'm not at all in favor of censorship on many different levels, but I am in favor of self-censorship.
Self-censorship.
The idea that I weigh my words more wisely, that I think before I say, or if I say wrong, that I own it and do what I have to do to try to make it right.
Okay, so we're not going to get political, and I don't know when people are going to be watching or listening to this show, but obviously the climate of our nation right now is divided. It has been just very destructive. And so I think there's a lot of people out there who are feeling hopeless, who are feeling helpless, and they don't know what to do with the ugly and the evil that they see. And we're just saying here, it starts in the home.
Right.
It starts with you and what you say and what you do and how they match, you know, the promises that you speak and how you keep those promises, hon. I was showering this morning and I was thinking of those words, always and never. I will never forgive you. I will never let you back in my life. I will always hold, like when we speak those things, those words matter. And we have clients who have literally said, my dad said this when I was 10, that I'll never amount to anything, or you will never be allowed in my home in my life again. Like those things stick. And when we realize that our words have power and that our promises people are listening to and remembering, that's where it starts with us.
Yeah. And so, because I think sometimes people look at this as, well, they're so naive. That's pie in the sky. Like if you really think you're going to change this nation or this world, that, you're going to, if everybody starts carrying their weight. But
if everybody's nice to one another.
But that is where this starts. As we talked about at the front of the show, the idea that if the family goes bad, the country will follow. And understanding that the illness starts in the home.
Yeah.
And that's why we exist here at Rock Solid Families, because when we see divorce, when we see the breaking up of families, when we see family done in a way that's hurtful, that will trickle out into how we operate in this world. And we are living the example right now. And so, no, I can't immediately impact the entire world on a global scale that's recognized, but I can impact it in my home. And that's why we want to own this, right? We want to own this. And so here's the bottom question. And rather than going to the TV or the politicians or somebody outside, I just want to ask the question, what can I do?
Hun, this makes me think about a situation that I was in years ago where I worked with an at-risk class of students, high school students, who had kind of been put together. It was a kind of a failed experiment, I believe, but they were put together and kind of monitored, and I was speaking to them. And I was speaking to them about kind of the same subject. We were talking about social media. We were talking about our responsibility in that and how it affects our nation and things, and they just totally didn't buy that. But I took a little survey with these kiddos, and I asked them some simple questions like, do you eat around the dinner table? Do you sleep with your phone? Do you believe that, so some of these things about their own personal responsibility in words and communication, and it was astounding how few of them had parents who were engaged in their life, that were sitting around the dinner table teaching these very things, which, by the way, we did a show on the dinner table and how important it is just a couple weeks ago that I encourage you to go back and watch. But they weren't learning these skills we're going to be talking about today by their parents. Yeah. And so therefore, they are now self-destructing, and they're spreading it in the school, and the school's realizing, like, what do we do with this? And it starts in the home. Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to walk through, like, okay, so that sounds really good. We want to help you actually wrap your hands around the basic tools. So this is, again, we always talk about, maybe it's a good time right now to get a pen or something to just jot some ideas down to help you think, okay, how am I going to carry this out for me and in my home? Yeah. So the first thing, hon, and this is hard, this very first thing, because this is one of those things that I don't feel like I have to do.
I know.
But it is, and we are called to do it. We are to respect all people. We are to respect all people. I want you to wrap your head around that for just a second. I did not say we are to like all people. No, I don't like all people.
Or to agree with all people.
Or agree with. Yeah. I am, though, to respect, because I am of no greater or lesser value, and they are of no greater or lesser value in the eyes of God. Yeah. And so to respect them means that I am going to at least honor who they are, and I am going to work with them. Right. Okay?
Doesn't mean you trust them, and it doesn't mean that you believe everything they say, okay? But it is important, this is a huge thing when I teach boundaries, is this idea of unconditional respect. And I've had so many people push back and say, you don't know my ex, or you don't know what my dad did to me. And I'm like, doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that you agree with them or you validate what they did at all. It means that as a person created in God's image, that you show them respect. No name calling, no cursing at them, no derogatory comments. Like, that's just a basic life skill that will go far in your life if you learn to do this with people, even people who've wronged you. That's the hard part.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I want you to think about how we see this done well all the time. You will see two NFL football teams absolutely tearing each other apart on the field and just going after it because, I mean, that win means something to them. Okay, that's their livelihood. And when the game is over, respect says, I'm going over and I'm shaking their hand because I respect the work that they put in to the life that they're having and doing.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I didn't want to beat them. It means I respect them. I honor them.
But, hon, we're seeing a breakdown of that. I remember in a high school wrestling meet, a high school coach who had such an attitude toward his opponent, he would not let his kids go over and shake the opponent's hand.
Very disrespectful.
Very disrespectful. And as a coach, he wouldn't go over and shake the other coach's hand. That starts to breed disrespect and anger and fuels this bitterness and resentment we are seeing in our culture, in our communities today. We've got to start at home saying, no, I don't care if you don't like your mom or your dad or your teacher, your coach, you're going to respect them and you're going to speak with respect. Yeah. That's so important.
So the next part of this is I am going to be responsible for what I communicate, okay? And what that means is going beyond the word, the actual word that I say. For whatever I communicate, I'm going to be responsible for that. And we see this all the time as parents. We ask our kid, about, I didn't say that.
I didn't do
that. And you're like, you kind of did.
Yeah.
And so we're no different as adults. When I feel like it's going to turn the heat up on me a little bit, I will deflect. And deflection is just an insecurity in that I don't want to get caught or I don't want to do the work to make the change. And so being responsible, the way that I know I'm responsible is I'm going to stand behind my word, but I'm also going to make it right when it isn't.
Going to own it. Yeah. There's nothing more powerful than the words, I'm sorry, or you're right, or I did it, or I admit that I did. So those are the things that are humbling, but so powerful.
It's one of the first things, hon, that we do, and when we're working with couples that have been bumping heads for quite a while, is to say, okay, you have to say you're sorry. You have to apologize because, one, it takes down the defense, and two, you can only apologize if you've owned something.
And this is where body language is so important. And
I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Tone. So if you're texting, it's one thing, but if you're looking someone eye to eye and you mean it with the tone of, I'm sorry, I hurt you.
Yeah.
That's so different than, I'm sorry. Right. And it's flippant, it's not meaningful. So those words matter, but also the tone and the nonverbals go with it that are important.
Right. Here, hon, this kind of goes along with the body language thing, but our actions and our words must match.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to mess with somebody, say a word that is followed by an opposite action.
Yeah.
Like when you ask me how I'm doing and I go, I'm fine.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
And
if you take that out to a bigger picture, you can see where I could say, honey, I love you. But then I am having an affair. I'm doing something hurtful.
Yep.
So my actions and my words don't match. And when they don't match, it causes confusion. And when you cause confusion, which is what we have in our country right now, when I see people speak from the big public pulpits and they say stuff, but then their actions don't match it, that causes confusion. And when there's confusion, there is distrust.
That's right. That's why you need to be slow to speak, quick to listen, slow to get angry, because those promises that you say and those things that you say you're going to do, if you don't do them, whether it be as a parent, whether it be as a spouse, whether it be as an employer or employee, wow, it matters. It matters with your integrity and your character. It matters with your reputation and how people will trust you or won't trust you. So your words and your actions have got to match. That is so important. And as a parent, I'm just going to tell you, that has created more problems in our kiddos because they don't even know who to believe in.
Right.
They don't know who to trust in.
Even if you don't like the message that you're being delivered, if you know that the words and the actions match, you will still keep trust. So in other words, when you tell your kids you've lost your phone, your kids don't like that message. But as long as you follow through with it, they'll continue to trust you. Even as simple as something that says you've lost your phone, but then you give your kid the phone, they might like what they've got in that moment, but that doesn't mean that you
No.
did anything to say that your word means anything.
Yeah, and we've worked with parents all the time where they'll say, "I can't get my kid to listen," or I can't get them to follow through with things." But if you go to the store and you say, "Honey, we're not going to get any candy today," okay, and you go in the store and they throw a fit. And they know that if they ask 4 times, it's a no, but if 5 times, it's a yes, they're going to go 5 times every time you go into the store. And you wonder why you have a tantrum every time, because they know your words don't matter.
Right.
Your word doesn't mean anything, and I can wear you down.
Yeah. Matthew, in Matthew 12, 36 and 37, this is something that I think we just all need to be reminded of. It says, "But I tell you that everyone will have to give account on the day of judgment for every empty word they have spoken. For by your words you will be acquitted, and by your words you will be condemned." Yeah. Words matter.
Yeah.
Words matter.
Okay, so, hun, I got a question for you, and I forgot to ask you about this ahead
great.
of time.
I'm being set up again.
So
I'm used to this.
So think about this for a second, and I'll go first. When was there a time when your words and your actions didn't match and you got in trouble? Okay. Words and actions didn't match. And I'm just going to go way back because I was thinking about this again in the shower.
Are you saying something that I did?
No, I'm actually going back to my childhood and how it had repercussions. But, I remember going to the store with my mom and stealing bubble gum. And chewing the bubble gum in front of my mom, and then her asking me where I got it. And of course I lied. And then she caught me in the lie. And so I had to go back to the store and tell them the truth that I had stolen the bubble gum. And I'll never forget that, because my mom knew that if she didn't correct me in that moment of my words and my actions not matching, that I was heading down a path of just, lying, covering up lies and stealing and things like that. And so those moments mattered for me. And so I know that I want to do that for my kids. That if I say stealing's wrong and then I caught you in stealing, there's got to be repercussions where we got to get the words and the actions matching.
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of a big event, but I can think of stuff that I do and we both do all the time with our kids. Not all the time, but it happens, where we say something like, "Hey, maybe this weekend we'll go shopping, or we'll go do this, or we'll go do that." And all of a sudden, the kid gets excited about it. They kind of get wrapped around that. And then all of a sudden, I come up with, and to be honest, maybe some cheesy excuse for, "Well, we're kind of busy, so we're not going to do that this week." And your kid... Not that, we cater to the kids, but your kids definitely took that in like,
they hung on your words.
Yeah. So you said, but we didn't. And so if there's an accumulation of that, your trust will slowly erode away. And eventually, your kid's like, "Yeah, well, I've heard this before."
Yeah, exactly. And this isn't just with parenting. This is in your marriage as well. So name calling, grudge holding, crude language, inappropriate comments, those are all things that stick with your spouse. And so you may say you're sorry later, but by the way, John Gottman says it takes 5 positives, not just 5 words, but 5 positive experiences to negate 1 negative comment or action. If you say call your spouse something nasty, and then they get hurt and they cry and they walk away and they go, "Oh, I'm sorry," that doesn't repair that relationship. You need 5 experiences of remorse or positiveness to be able to correct that 1 nasty word that came out of your mouth.
And I want to talk about something that's going to probably step on a lot of toes, because this is not a lot. I don't know what percentage of people are on social media. But about 2 years ago, I was on social media, Facebook, like everybody else. I'm still on there, but mostly more for just the sake of hopefully doing better stuff on there. And I found myself, especially at that time, kind of getting into these bantering little discussions, a lot of times political. And the next thing you know, they were kind of turning into arguments. And now you're on a public stage, and so you're going to try to save face. And you start to do things at the expense of other people. You start to say things at the expense of other people. You start to just not be somebody who's respecting other people. And one thing I have to admit is I wasn't very good at it. So,
You're not quick on your feet sometimes.
hey,
You
that
admit
hurt.
that.
That hurt.
You admit that.
I'm allowed to say it. You can't.
Okay. You say that all the time.
But what I found is, and I walked away from that going, did I really win anything here? Is all I did is I got ugly. I got ugly, and did I really win anybody over? And so it's that whole idea that, and this is, I ask people to hear this because I'll see my friends who are on one side or the other of the aisle, of the politic aisle, and they will try to beat their convincing words into the other people. You know, you should do this, you should do that. And we always joke, you know, if you've ever seen a 3-year-old throwing a tantrum, have you ever been able to look at the 3-year-old and say, you know, it'd really be better right now if you just kind of calm down and took a breath. And the 3-year-old look at you and go, you know
You're
what,
right,
Mommy,
Mom.
you're right. I should do that.
Haven't happened very often.
Right. You can't fight fire with fire in those situations. And so I have completely had to realize how wrong I was in my work on social media and go, you know what, I'm not going there.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of drifted to the idea of if I can't say anything good, don't say anything at all. Don't say anything at all, because that is not the place to try to get somebody convinced to one way or the other.
Yeah.
It's just going to cause more problems.
And I can't think of the verse right now, but there's a verse that talks about how a gentle answer turns away wrath, I think is how it's said. Like, your gentleness is really the key, by the way. If you can write one word down from this show, it's gentleness. We need to speak the truth in love, but do it with gentleness and respect. That's what we're called to do. That's what the Bible tells us to do. I'm not saying we should, not stand up for truth, but we've got to speak the truth in love and do it with gentleness and respect, whether that's to our spouse, whether that's to our children, whether that's to our boss, whether that's to, somebody else out there in social media land. We can't do it with a club.
Right. And Hannah, I mean, it make me think too, like, even if I'm trying to speak in love, that might be my intent. If the person's not ready to be receiving that message, then I have to use my head there, and I have to go, now's not the time.
Right.
Because we talk about this all the time. The emotionally charged brain is not one that receives messages well.
Right.
And so sometimes you're better off to say, not now. Not now. When things calm down, we'll go back at this a different way.
And that brings me to another point, is the whole idea of timeouts. So gentleness and timeouts. If you are charged, man, if your heart's beating and your pulse is racing and you are breathing heavy and you're feeling just out of control with this feeling and emotion, it's time to take a timeout. Because whatever's going to come out of your mouth, what's ever going to come out of your fingers is not going to be positive, gentle, or respectful. And so we got to take a break, maybe sleep on it, maybe go step away from it, maybe really pray over it. Those are things that are going to really help your integrity and your character, and honestly, your reputation and who you are as a person. Because the things that sometimes come out is not who you want to be.
Right. So as we're getting ready to wrap things up, and I want to go back to a phrase that I used earlier. It's time to really think about the value of self-censorship, okay? The self-censorship in this case is not about not saying or getting the message across. It is about thinking about how you're going to do that. And so, as you said, honey, this is not at all about being silent, okay? But how would God look upon what our communication looks like? Yeah. Would he say, yeah, keep doing it, punch him again? Or would he say, you know what, there's a better way? Yeah. He loves us and shows us grace. How well do we do that to the people that oftentimes maybe trample on us, or we feel like they're trampling on us? And so self-censorship goes a long way here, and especially towards healing. We talk about this in the marriage. Right now it's better that you don't say anything, because if you're going to say it, it may not come out right.
Right. But we don't want to brush under the rug forever. We want to find the right time and the right place in the right situation where you do bring it up and you do talk it through, and maybe get some outside counsel. Hun, there's been many times. I recently just reached out to a friend about a situation that I was having with a client, again, not using any names, but really kind of a moral dilemma I was having. And so I needed some outside counsel. I needed another way of looking at it. And this is a trusted Christian friend who I really trust in. And so he was able to give me some different ways of looking at things,
Right.
some different words. And those words mattered because they were thoughtful, they were biblically based, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He knows me, he knows my heart. And so those are things that we need to have in our life. We need to have people who are willing to speak the truth in love, that iron sharpening iron, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need that.
Yeah. Okay. So our challenge this week is a real one. Our challenge this week, not that they're all real.
I was going to say, aren't they all real?
But it's real because you're going to be able to find it right available to do instantly.
Today.
How are you communicating in your home? And so it's time to do a little assessment. What's the tone in your house? What's the sarcasm level? What's the amount of arguing that goes on in your house? It's time to take a little snapshot of that and go, is this working? Is this being effective? Is this what's helping my kids so that when they go out, they will be winners versus people who are just going to cause more problems or have more problems? So it's really time for us to assess this. And, and I don't want to leave it. Silent treatment. Is there a lot of silent treatment? Silent treatment is an incredibly strong form of communication. So all of these things,
deadly form.
Deadly. And so these are things it is time for you to assess and to look at.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. And, that goes with your spouse as well. Like, how are you treating your spouse? How are you talking with your spouse? You're never going to regret treating your family better and having a different tone in your home. It does start with us. And if we can model it in our own home, then that's what we take out to the school. That's what we take out to our workplace. That's what we take out to our community and our nation. And we desperately, desperately need that change right now.
Yeah, very good stuff. One of the best ways that you can start any of this is with an apology. If there's any area at all that we've not communicated well, maturity says, you know what, I'm just going to own that. And the way I express ownership is to apologize when I've hurt somebody. And so, man, wouldn't that just be huge? To say, I'm sorry, I've not always done things right, and to own that. But then you can't leave it hang there. Then you have to start to work on how will we do it differently in the future.
So I think we need to add that to our challenge, hon. So really think about somebody that maybe you've hurt with your words, that your words have cut like a knife. And it doesn't even have to be in your own home. It could be at work. It could be a friendship. And that you would commit, your challenge this week would be to go to that person, to own your part in it, to say you're sorry, and to make changes, to build that relationship into something that maybe it's never been before, something stronger and healthier.
All right. So your words matter.
Yes.
Don't forget that. They do matter.
Yeah.
All right, we want to thank our sponsors. We want to thank Maxwell Construction and Casey's Outdoor Solutions for coming alongside Rock Solid Radio, helping us to do what we do in terms of helping people. We also appreciate all of the support that we get out there from our listeners. And, when you are listening and you are contributing to Rock Solid Families, you are helping other families and even families you may not know. And so we want to let you know that we need you, and we're all part of the solution, and we don't want to be part of the problem any longer.
So thanks for listening to Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community, one family at a time. Make it a great day. Rock Solid Radio wants to thank Maxwell Construction, who has been our sponsor since the very beginning. For over 30 years, Maxwell has delivered the highest quality projects by holding to their core values of customer satisfaction, positive attitude, respect, and excellence. So if you have any kind of commercial construction need, give Maxwell Construction a call today at 812-537-2200.